We're about 5.5 months out. I got my permits 2 weeks ago. No-bow, I'm going no-bow. And this is where I'm doing a lot of my hiking and biking, trying to get fit for this John Muir Trail. This is the Turkey Creek Preserve, I think it's called. And you can see they've got a canoe launch, they've got a mountain bike trail. They've got some gators in here. This is where I'm doing it. This is where I am hopefully going to be getting myself fit enough to do this crazy effing thing that I've taken on. It's been a lifetime goal. It's been a dream of mine. It's one of those bucket list things, and it's epic. If you're here for the JMT, you know the beauty. It's unheralded, unseen beauty. Well, it's heralded. It's heralded beauty that you can't see without hiking for days. And a lot of it's only been seen by thru hikers. So just real quick here, this is the Turkey Creek Preserve. A lot of this stuff back in here is some really good mountain biking. It's hilly. I do a lot of my walks around here. I'll just show you real quick. You can see there's this beautiful river here that goes out to the Banana River, or actually it's the Indian River out here. There's a lot of wildlife in here. This is like some really great mountain biking and hiking up and down. It's tough. It's very rooty. I am going to be doing what is the most flowy ride here, and probably the easiest in terms of technical difficulty. But I like it a lot because you can really get moving. You can really get your heart rate up. And you can, it just goes and goes and goes, and it's beautiful. So this is the Turkey Creek section that I use to access the next section. And I kind of go easy here usually, kind of use it as a little warm up. But yeah, man, getting back to the JMT, we got our permits. I'll just real briefly do a little rewind. I got it in my head about a year ago that I was going to do this thing. I saw the writing on the wall with work, that I was probably going to have some free time on my hands, that my days of being a 9-to-5er, not that I was ever a 9-to-5er, I was more a 6:30 a.m.er to 5er, and plus a 3-hour commute. I did the grind for a long time. I saw the writing on the wall, and I started kind of dreaming about getting out to Yosemite, and then, man, could I do the JMT? Do I have it in me? It's 211 punishing miles through the high Sierras. And the route that I'm taking is actually probably more like 270, but it's up and down, it's unrelenting. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And man, I just wanted to, it's something I've dreamt of. I've thought of other thru hikes. Maybe that's something down the road, but the idea of hiking for 5 months, being away from my family for that long, I'm not ready for that challenge yet. But this thing could be done in 18 days or 22 days or 14 days or whatever, we end up shooting for, and I'll get more into that later. But I am looking at a slow roll because I want to actually enjoy the trail. One thing I've heard from a lot of thru hikers, especially the ones that do it in like 14 days or even 20-day guys, is that they felt like they kind of rushed through it, and it was a little bit of a blur, and it was all about miles and getting that 20 in, getting to the next campsite. And, that end date is looming, that flight home is looming. Your resupplies are looming, and you have to hit certain spots at certain days. And I'm going to design this thing as best I can to really, be able to soak it in. I want to swim in every stream. I want to get to those scenic spots and just say, hey, I'm done for the day. I'm spending the next 14 hours right here, or whatever, the next day right here. And so I'm formulating a pretty conservative schedule I'll get into, but yeah, this has been a dream. And so about a year ago, and actually, so we're leaving the Turkey Creek Preserve. This is the one street crossing we have on this thing, which, interestingly enough, I don't think there's any spots on the John Muir that there might be a spot in Tulum Meadows or something where you can walk on the road, but not the route that we're going. We're going to be in the woods the whole time. So this is, I want to say this is the Cameron Preserve. This actually might be part of the Malabar Preserve. I don't know, but you can see that they've been cutting this down. This was once a beautiful, gorgeous forest, and you can see they've been doing some controlled burns here, and they're cutting stuff down. And supposedly this is like to save this scrub jay. It's been a whole political thing. I know, like, one of the guys supposedly was buying the wood from these guys for like 10 cents on the dollar. So, you know, you get politicians involved with this stuff, it always gets nasty. But, you know, yeah, they're supposedly saving the scrub jay, but man, how many other animals and how many trees had to die and lose their homes for that? I don't know. Sometimes it's just, that's evolution. I don't get it. All right, we're going, this is the actual Cameron Preserve we're going into now, part of the town of Malabar. And oh man, I love this. And I'm gonna keep you, this part here, we're getting on the Impala Trail. And this is a little rooty, a lot of turns. I'm gonna continue to just kind of go chill here so you could see it and I could talk a little bit. And then when we get out of this section, we'll probably pick it up a little bit so that we're actually getting a workout too. But so yeah, like a year ago, this thing started building in my head, and then I made plans to go visit my daughter out in Colorado. Of course, I love her and miss her, and was looking forward to seeing her. But the reason for my trip was to kind of do a little test run for the John Muir, test out the equipment that I had, which was old equipment, heavy equipment, really made for car camping, most of it. And picked up some stuff out there from REI that I had read about and had done some research on, and kind of test drove a few things. But really what I test drove and failed miserably was my body. We did some of these hikes in Rocky Mountain National Park. We did this one epic hike over 12,000 feet near Vail, and it kicked my ass. It was a huge wake-up call. And I knew I had put on some weight. You know, I had moved to Florida a few years back, and I don't know, felt like we were in permanent vacation mode. You know, margaritas and tequila and happy hour and oysters by the sea. And so I hadn't realized how out of shape I had gotten. I had been doing rides like this, but real shorter versions of it, and doing some stuff here and there, but nothing. I'd really fallen out of my regimen. I was working too, still at this time, but no excuses. So without giving away the exact number I was at, I got destroyed. On these trails, and you know, people, you know, listen, I'm going to be 60 this year, so no offense to older people, I'm one of them. But you know, some really old ladies were like lapping me, and I was braking. I had to brake a lot to get my oxygen, and the altitude kicked my ass. And you know, if you know anything about the John Muir Trail, it's all altitude, and the altitude kicked my ass, but also my fitness kicked my ass because I didn't have any. So I came home from that trip. It was a big wake-up call, but I still had the dream. I was still dreaming of the John Muir Trail, and I came home and I made a change, and I started eating better and drinking a little less, and really just started moving my body. Okay, We'll do this blue later. The blues here can be a little bit rooty, but the blues on this side of things are pretty nice. But this, what we're getting on now, is this East Trail, and it really flows. It's really nice. And since I'm talking, I'm not going to go too fast, but I'm going to pick it up in here so I can at least get a workout and put it in a heavier gear. So I'm working my legs a little bit. An old trick, use muscle tension exercises. Actually, probably a much more efficient gear than this, but this lets me really build some muscle. You know, we've got to find ways to do that because Florida is flat and it's just different, no altitude. But getting back to the JMT story, I started just walking. That's really what it started with. That's how out of shape I was. I started walking like a mile in the mornings before work, and then I would work. Then I added some Tai Chi midday, so I'd go in my backyard and I'd ground, and I'd do this little Tai Chi, this viral Tai Chi workout I found on Instagram. And man, that really helped me a lot because it just got all my muscles moving and my arms moving, my legs moving, and the swinging and the twisting. I don't underestimate the value that had for me. And it's a basic workout. It takes 7 minutes. It's not even a workout. It's just easy movement, but that's what it was about for me. That's how out of shape I was. I don't know how heavy I got the first time I weighed myself, maybe a month or two after getting back from Colorado. Probably a month after, I was 235. So that leads me to believe that I was probably 240. So maybe more. I'm down at 210 last weigh-in. So a solid 30 pounds down, which will probably be the weight of my backpack. So right there, you know, instead of doing the thing at 270 with the backpack, I'll be doing it at 240 with the backpack. But my goal is to get down to the 180s, maybe 180, because I know I'm going to lose probably 10 pounds on trail at least, and I haven't been below 170 since I was probably 13, or 14. So, you know, if I get to 188, 182, something like that, I think that's probably a great weight of fitness. So my goal at first was just to get fit. I wasn't thinking about mountain fitness. I wasn't thinking about altitude yet. I wasn't thinking about climbing strength and descending strength. I was just merely thinking about, I've got to get fit. And if that's all I do between now and the John Muir is get really fit, I think with my mental fortitude and attitude, and we'll get into some of that stuff at some point, but I'll be able to do it. But I want to just do it too. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to suffer. So I've gotten to the point where I know I've got to hit some mountains before it. It's going to be hard because of logistics of being in Florida, and I got to do some long days, longer than I'll probably do on the JMT, just because I won't actually be going up mountains. I'll be, you know, doing these flats through the sand, through the dirt. It's tough in its own right, but it's not like the climbing. You know, you start climbing, your heart rate goes, it soars right away. Less oxygen, plus the physical power it takes to push your body up that mountain, which is one of the reasons why, you know, I think my weight number, it's a big deal. You know, and I've said this to runners and other people that I've talked to about fitness through the years many times. You know, your speed as a runner or a biker is directly related to your strength, your aerobics. Your aerobic base obviously has to be there, but your weight. You know, give me two runners that are equal in everything, but one is 3 pounds heavier than the other. I'm gonna put my money on the one that's 3 pounds lighter, because it makes a big difference every pound. So that's kind of, you know, that was my view on the fitness side of things. And but of course, you know, there's other things I've got to do besides that. So my training's been, I'll go over that real quick. My training's been, and I'll talk about this in a lot of my videos, but has been hiking here in this park. And you know, my long hikes here started out around 5 miles, then they went out to 7. I did my longest yesterday so far. It was only 11, and I was pretty tired at the end of it. You know, it was hot, but you know, we're gonna just keep pushing them up, and so it's biking and walking. I do my morning walks every day. I do my Tai Chi on the beach, and then I try to either bike long or walk long, you know, 4-5 days a week. And then I'm also in the afternoon, I try to hit the gym. And again, in the beginning, that was just really light dumbbells. I hadn't been lifting. I didn't have that strength. By the way, this section that we came into here, I call this the Savannah, because it just reminds me of Savannah. We've left that pine forest we were in that was just beautiful, and we're in this little Savannah section. Love this place. So, and then, yeah, so my workouts with the weights in the beginning was just really light dumbbells and just moving, again, just getting everything. But now I've progressed to the point where my dumbbells, I'm going heavier and heavier, I'm going longer and longer, and I'm actually, you know, making some strength gains. I really wasn't working my legs because I was doing so much biking and walking, but I've decided, and just had my first leg workout, to incorporate JMT specific leg workouts. So not necessarily, you know, pressing weights on a big weight rack or doing massive squats, but doing yeah, sure, there's gonna be some kind of squatty stuff in there, stuff to strengthen my ankles, stuff to strengthen my shins, my calves, my Achilles, stuff that's just gonna kind of balance out all the muscles in there. And I'll show you that routine in another video. And then, of course, core work and yoga. I've been doing yoga with my wife like once a week, but I'm probably gonna, and I do some yoga moves a lot of times when I'm at the gym as part of my core routine. But throwing core in there more and more, which, you know, doing core when I was 235 was really tough, and there was this big thing in the middle that was getting in the way. So it was really basic stuff in the beginning, but now I've got to the point where I feel like I'm actually doing real crunches and, you know, leg raises and bridges and everything else. And core is huge for the JMT. You got to carry that pack, you got to keep your body going. I think it's as important as your legs. And, you know, believe it or not, your arms, especially, I'm going to be using hiking poles, so it's important you have some arm strength and shoulder strength for your poles as well. So yeah, so the JMT quest, the JMT, it is going on. Hopefully you'll follow along and you'll enjoy some of my content. And, you know, we're gonna try and do this thing together, and maybe I'll inspire you to go do the JMT or some other kind of hike, through hike or overnight hike, or just finding go tackle some of your bucket items. But, you know, I'm really thankful that you're here joining me. And if you're here for the biking, you know, I'm going to be posting some of these bikes that I do, and, you know, it's a good way to if you don't want to hear about the JMT, just turn the volume down. And you know, by the way, also this is my GoPro is brand new, and it's kind of windy out here, so I have a feeling I might have to reshoot this whole thing with the proper microphone on there. I just kind of took it out of the box and threw it on, and figured we'd give it a whirl. But yeah, this is a great place to bike, a great place to hike, and there's some nice picnic spots along here. There's a lot of animals in here. There's snakes and turtles. I've seen a wildcat. I want to say it was some kind of small panther or bobcat, I don't know. But it wasn't a cat. It was twice the size of a cat. And they always like a workout with a nice payoff. I love this little lake here. The first year I was coming here, I was really fearful that there'd be a crocodile sitting on the shore one day, or an alligator, but I haven't seen any. I've biked here 100 times at least, and I haven't seen a gator, so I don't think there's any here. Doesn't mean they can't come in, you know. Move into the neighborhood, you never know. But man, it's just beauteous. So yeah, if you're not here for the JMT content, I'm going to be posting other content. I think I'm trying to figure out some stuff that might be interesting, and maybe you have some ideas, but I'm thinking of maybe biking from the East Coast that I live on to the West Coast on maybe on my mountain bike, but maybe on my road bike. Obviously be quicker on my road bike, but the mountain bike probably be more comfortable, but take a little longer. It's kind of trip you probably could do easily in 2 days, but I'd probably stretch it out to 3 or 4 days so I can stop and see some things and get some good footage for you guys. But yeah, so if you have any other ideas, I'm gonna head out to Sedona, I think in June, and do some nice mountain hikes there. Nothing too crazy, because I will be doing with my wife, who is really fit, but she's not training for the JMT, so she doesn't want to do, you know, 20 miles. She wants to do, you know, she'll be down for a 7 mile or 8 mile, but that's all we need. As long as there's climbing and altitude, it'll be beneficial. And then probably like a month out from hitting the trail, we hit the trail August 10. So maybe mid-July I'll find a spot in Florida where I can hike for 2 or 3 days and test out all my equipment and test out my food and test out my fitness and my ability to you know, enjoy the woods. But yeah, down for any suggestions. So that little cement area we had just crossed through, that's actually the Malabar lot. So you could park in Malabar, and I used to park there all the time. Funny thing is, there's these 2 really big, beautiful birds. I don't know what type of bird they are. I think the male has like a red plume on his head, and they're a little territorial. They'll come right up to you. They won't do anything to you, but they do act aggressively. And I guess he didn't like where I parked my car one day. It's actually my wife's car. And the whole time I was out on the trail hiking with my daughter, he was pecking the car. So he scratched up the car. He pecked it so much that he was bleeding. So his blood was actually on my car. Crazy. So I don't really park there as much as I used to. Although I think if you don't park near the lake. That's what he doesn't like. If you park over by the bathrooms, you're fine. And the lot I started at Turkey Creek, it's just closer to my house. But we're almost at the far end of this thing. We hit this road in about half a mile. So we're close to the ocean. We're getting close to the ocean now. You might be able to hear, well, the river anyway. You'll probably hear the cars on one. So a little bit of civilization, but I mean, this place is massive. And you can see there's some roots but it's nothing too crazy. It's a pretty chill ride. Totally a beginner could do this ride. You know, if there's a section you don't like, you can just walk it. Those trails I showed you right at the beginning, those are definitely advanced intermediate. I wouldn't even say like a low intermediate should go on those. It's very rooty, it's very hilly. A lot of the routes are on hills, and a lot of those rooty hills are right next to a river where there are definitely alligators. So every time I'm riding it, I envision myself, you know, coming off my bike and going into the river and having to deal with that. So no thank you. But I do hike that a lot, and I do bike it every now and then when I just need a little extra challenge. But I prefer this really flowy stuff where I can just book and pedal non-stop. And I think it's probably better training for what I'm trying to do, which is A, lose weight, and B, don't stop moving those legs. You got to keep going. So I mean, I'll talk more about the JMT because that's kind of my obsession right now, and I'm hoping people are tuning into the channel to follow that journey. But I got permits like a week ago. We'll post that video, or if I haven't posted already, it'll be posted below. I'm making a bunch of content, and then I'm going to queue it up, and then I'm going to start releasing it in bunches. So hopefully I'll put it in an order that makes sense. So I might talk about things that are in other videos or other things I'm doing, but this is the first real thing I'm recording on my GoPro. But I've made some other videos on my camera and stuff, and we'll upload those when we get around to it. But so JMT, the challenges of JMT are many and varied. It goes to the highest point in the contiguous US, so in the lower 48. There's higher points in Alaska. I don't know about Hawaii. I'm thinking no in Hawaii, but it's Mount Whitney. Sits at 14,505, and it's no joke. And if you're going southbound, which is the most popular route, and I'm not, you start out of Yosemite. It's more of a gradual build, although I think that first day or two there's a lot of elevation gain as you come out of the valley. But generally speaking, you're not hitting these 11,000 passes day after day. You work your way up to it, and you get to finish on Whitney, which I think is kind of a nice crowning piece to your journey. The one thing I don't like about finishing out of Whitney, and nothing wrong with the Sobo, and it's much harder to get permit Sobo too, by the way. It's one of the reasons why I just decided I'm going Nobo, northbound. But one of the things about ending at Whitney, as great as that is, a crowning achievement to you're in this town that there's not much there, and it's basically kind of sad. You gotta go you gotta figure out transport out of there. Most of these places are in the middle of nowhere. Even Yosemite, it's not close to anything. And if the airport's, you know, it looks like an hour-and-a-half drive, it could be a 3-hour drive because of Yosemite traffic. So there's no easy way. But when you come out at Whitney, the closest town is Lone Pine, and you know, maybe you can get some food there and stuff, but you've got to figure out your transportation home. And I don't know, there was something really appealing to me to have those last 3 days hiking through Yosemite and seeing these epic scenes, and then maybe spending a day or two in Yosemite and hitting some of the things that aren't on the JMT that are there, and you know, just being surrounded by all that beauty. And then for me, it's also kind of, you know, Fresno Airport's very doable from Yosemite. There's a lot of transportation options, so I just like that whole Nobu. I like the Nobu vibes. It's going to be a lot less people going my way, which is fine too. You know, I'm out there in the wilderness. I've got a couple friends that are possibly coming, but I'm not going to say any of them are 100% at the moment. But you know, these guys are I've got them interested. I'm reeling them in, and hopefully they'll watch these videos. Yeah, forget about that. The beach. I call this area the beach now. I haven't really been commenting on this trail as much as I probably should, if anyone's actually tuning in for the trail. But so yeah, there's a lot of stuff you have to figure out, and that's the first one. Are you going northbound or southbound? Then you got to get your permits. Not an easy task, as I told you. Even going northbound, you know, I tried for a couple days. I finally got the group that I needed, because in case all my friends that were saying they're interested actually become firm yeses, I needed to have permits for them too. So eventually got them, and that was a great celebratory moment. But then it became real. It became real, and then you got to figure out the logistics of which direction you're going. You've got that Mount Whitney. You've got 11 mountain passes. I'm probably going to have 13 or 14 mountain passes, because I'm starting in Cottonwood Lakes area, and which entails having to go over New Army Pass and maybe another pass there, I'm not sure. And I'm doing a resupply in Independence, so I've got to go over Kearsarge Pass twice. So that adds at least 3 passes to my route, and probably 40 miles or 50 miles. And then I'm doing a couple side quests. My daughter, very excitingly, is going to meet me in Reds Meadow, which is about 3 or 4 days out from the finish. And so I'm taking that day off, and we're gonna, believe it or not, hike to Rainbow Falls and Devil's Postpile, which aren't massive hikes. So by that point, that'll be an easy hike for me and really be a down day. And we'll get some food in the restaurant there and stuff. And so there are some spots. The whole trail you're not in civilization, but there are spots you can kind of access some things, and it gives you little things to look forward to. Maybe get a little bird's eye view here of this place. I just got the standard lens in there that comes with it, but I'm gonna do this again, maybe with the anamorphic, or not with the anamorphic, with the wide lens, see how that looks. We'll give you a couple days of filming here. But yeah, this is where I hike too. So you know, you're hiking through. Yes, please do. Yes, you did.
Thank you.
No worries. Enjoy. No problem.
Thank you.
Cool. Enjoy. All right, there. Going much quicker than me. I'm too busy chatting. But I wonder how long they were back there behind me. And now, so as we head back here, we're gonna cross to that little parking lot again soon. And then as we going west now, it does get a lot more rooty, this side of things. So if you are a beginner, here's might be a little section where you're gonna just want to be aware. And there are exit points that you can kind of go off to the right, and then there's like a paved trail if you wanted to do something like that. But that's a whole, I'm not 100% positive. If I see a spot where you can do it, I'll try to point it out. So, and here's the parking lot. So all the way down to my left is the Malabar parking lot. I'll let you see that real quick. You can see this is a little, like I said, this would be a great place to film a zombie movie. But the parking lot is way at the end of that. And then where those bikers are, there's a trail there that is just basically a paved trail that circles this whole area, I believe. I've never really ridden the whole thing, but that's an out. Those are outs along the way you could take if it gets the roots get to be too much. through here it's not too bad. It's very easy to work your way around it, but then there gets a little sections where they keep coming up. So when I brought my daughter here, we had to kind of take it slow. And a very rare hill here in Florida. So let's talk more about the Nobu. One of the problems with Nobu is, like I said, also getting a Whitney Nobu is very tough. So what we are doing, we got passes out of Cottonwood Lakes. And Cottonwood Lakes, like I said, is basically 30 miles from the start of the JMT. So we're gonna have to hike 30 miles, maybe it's 40 miles, to the base of Mount Whitney. As we're going up Mount Whitney, we'll at some point intersect with the JMT, and we'll join people that are finishing their Sobo journey as they summit Mount Whitney. That'll probably be day 3 or 4 for us. And so you put my first 14 under my belt, and you know, that's something you have to really plan for. So let's talk about that. Mount Whitney day 3, day 4, that's tough. That's going over 14,000 feet. So the plan I kind of came up with, and I've had problems. I mentioned in Colorado I had those altitude issues, and it's happened to me before skiing too, where I got a little bit of altitude sickness at least once, and really bad once, where I had to go on an oxygen tank and ended my trip basically. But so my plan, and I'm taking a very conservative plan, but I also feel like this is going to make sure that we do it, we enjoy it. A lot's being put into this, a lot of time, a lot of money. I'm trying to make a plan that's going to be success, as close to 100% chance of success as possible. Of course, you never know what's going to be dealt you out there on the trail, right? So failure is possible. As a matter of fact, the fail rate is 50%. So 50% of the people that undertake this don't make it. So that's one of our first big obstacles, was getting permits. We got the permits. We're going northbound because that was an easier way to get the permits. It makes our trip longer, and it includes a mountain pass to get to before we get to Whitney. So what I'm doing is I'm flying into Mammoth and via San Fran out of Orlando, and I'm spending 2 days at Mammoth. So the day I land, I'm going to get on the gondola once I check in, or if it's late, I'm just going to get on the gondola with my backpack and go to the top of the mountain, and not necessarily hike around. I might walk around a little bit, but I might just get a drink, and non-alcoholic probably, because, you know, I think probably booze will be out for the first like 7-8 days of the trip. But we'll spend some time at altitude, and then I'll go down to my hotel, which sits just below 8,000 feet, and we'll sleep at 8,000 feet. Day 2, I will be hiking to Barney Lake, possibly Duck Pass. I don't know. If I'm feeling really good, I will, because that entails, I think it's close to 10,000 if it's not over 10,000, whereas, or maybe 11,000, and Barney's around 10,000. I'm not sure of the numbers, but the bottom line is I'll be doing a hike that will be at least half the day and will get me to altitude. And then the plan is to sleep go back down again, sleep low. So train it high, sleep low, give your body a chance to acclimate, process the air with a lot less oxygen in it. You get your red blood cells fixed, situated, feeling good about things. Day 3, we get up. We have bus transportation to Cottonwood Lakes, and whatever time we get there, we're hiking up to one of the lakes. We're only going to do 6 miles probably on that first day, although you never know. If we get there early and we're feeling good, might go a little bit further, but definitely don't want to overdo it. Again, I'd say there's a good chance we go further than the lakes that day, but that's what I put in so far for my itinerary. And then day 4, depending on how far we go there, we'll be doing, was that day 4? Wait, day 1, 2. That's day 3. So day 4, if we go to Rock Creek on day 3, day 4 will be Whitney, or no, it'll be Guitar Lake, to get ready to summit Whitney. If we only go 6 miles into the lakes, then the next day will probably be Rock Creek and then Guitar Lake. So we're really moving slow, not overtaxing our bodies, getting acclimated, and then we're gonna look at a Whitney summit from a starting point of Guitar Lake. And so yeah, I gotta, you know, I'm gonna have to be fitter than I am right now to do it, but I think we've got a plan between the training and between our slow roll up to Whitney that we can summit Whitney and really enjoy the moment. And then basically you're on the JMT. So we'll already have 4 days of hiking, and we're just getting on the JMT, which is 211. And I've got some side quests that I'm looking at. So, you know, we're gonna be pushing maybe even 300 on this thing. My guess would be in the 280s, 288. That's my goal. And so I don't know if you recognize this, but we're back. I kind of just took a little shortcut there, but we're back. Like, I'll do that sand section. We're back on this east-west loop in this pine forest area that I just love. And even in the summer on a hot day, it's usually significantly cooler in here than it is anywhere else around here. And I'm actually going to do this loop a couple times, but I'm just going to show you guys one basic loop, the basic, you know, east-west loop, I call it. It's the easiest path to take, and the mileage is not too crazy. I want to guess it's 7 miles, but I'm not. I used to record all that stuff when I was doing my triathlon days. The last time I had a mission like this, I went out and did Ironman. You know, I was recording all my miles and heart rate and everything like that. I kind of got tired of that and just like to just go out and ride. But at some point it probably will be interesting, and I'm going to have to get something to track our miles in John Muir. So at some point I'll have something, and I'll figure out what the actual mileage is on all this stuff. But it feels like a 7-mile loop to me. So, and then yeah, after Whitney, we work our way. The next big milestone would be, well, I won't call it a milestone, but we'll be going to Kearsarge, to Independence, for our first resupply. And then from there to our next resupply is what I'm most kind of concerned with at this point. I think it's like 10 days between getting our resupply at Independence and getting to Vermilion Valley Resort, VVR, where our next and final resupply will be. Because we probably could do it in a shorter time, but there's so many lakes between there that are just unreal, and I plan on going into them all. And so I've got a lot of 8-mile days in there and I want to stick to that if I can. So we're gonna have to take a shit ton of food. The backup will be, we can go to VTR or MTR, Muir Trail Ranch, and kind of raid their boxes, or I could even send a box there. There's a hike out from there. I think it's a couple thousand feet of extra hiking just to go down and get some food. Like, I would love it if we were good on our food and felt good about getting to VVR and didn't have to go down there. But if we're low, we can go down there, hit those. They have hiker boxes that people put their unwanted stuff, or they've got extras that from their supply. People send extra stuff to the resupply box so that they can, oh, I don't like this, I decided I don't want to eat this anymore, and they throw all those extras in there. So we're back out to this spot, the Scrub Jay area, where they cut down all these gorgeous woods. And so if this is looking familiar to you, what I call the Barrens, Normally I would do that loop again and then go do some of the side bikes there, but I want to show you this thing from beginning to end, and this is kind of the last mile or so, so you can see, get an idea of what biking here is like. So that's what we got to figure out. And that last box that we pick up, that last resupply or bucket really is what it's going to be. That's going to be enough to get us to Yosemite. Not really, but as you get to Yosemite, there are places you can buy some food if you're low. There's places you can actually eat, like Red's Meadow, where I'm eating my daughters. We're gonna have burgers and milkshakes there, maybe a beer or two. And there's a couple other places as you get closer to civilization where you will be fine. So I'm not gonna do a lot of people do a resupply at Chula Meadows, or whatever it is. We're not gonna do that. Reds, we could do one. I'm not gonna do it. If I need to pick up, 3 days worth of snacks and dinners there, I'll do it. I'll just buy it. Hopefully they have some stuff that I like, but by then you'll have the finish line in sight and there'll be no stopping us. So let's see, what are some of the other things? I want to just go like down the list of stuff I'm going to cover here. You've got to get your gear down, like sleeping comfortably. That's one thing. Another thing I learned in my trip in the Rockies with my daughter, I was not comfortable sleeping in my gear, the stuff I had. So the tent was too small, I feel. It's an awesome tent. It's one of the most popular ones on the market, but one of the great things about REI is I tried it and they let you return it. So I got my money back. I actually found a tent that's about $150 cheaper and it's got more room. I like having a room in there to put my gear, to put my camera, to put even my bag, bear can outside the tent, of course, but yeah, so that's another thing that's you got to figure out is all your gear. What's your sleeping bag? What's your water filtration system? It's not enough to just say, okay, I'm going to buy this water filtration system. You need to find one you like and test it. I'm already on my second one. The first one I bought, I liked it, but I found one that I just really from YouTube guys showing how they're doing it. I'm like, oh, I just like that better. I like that C-knock where you can just, open up one end and it fills up and then you just filter it out. Or I think one that's like and so I'm not even sure which one I'm going with 100% yet, but the other one is kind of like gravity fed. So you go fill it, then you just go hang it from a tree, and while you're setting up camp, and your water filters for you, so you don't have to sit there and push it through every time. So I really do like that idea. You've got to figure out your bathroom situation. One thing in the beginning, I was kind of under the impression that I was going to have to pack out all of my number twos, and for lack of a better word, and the reality is, and we're at the end here, by the way, the reality is you don't. You can bury it. The only place you have to really is an approach to Whitney, because it's all rock. So if you go up there, you got to carry it out with you. So I'll have a little setup where I can carry it out. Let's do a little. So that's the end there. That's where we began. But let's go back in this trail here. You can see a little bit of this. It gets a little bit more challenging back in here, especially as we get closer to the water and the gators, as I told you. I'm not really even that familiar with this, but we'll just take a little loop so we can finish this kind of thought that we have here. But you can see already we're doing a few more. It's a little bit more challenging back in this section. Oh, we got this thing here. I get a little speed up. I'm too busy talking. I'm not paying attention to what's coming up. But so you got to figure out your bathroom situation. What I'm using, and rather than you don't, TP is what you have to carry out with you. I'm going with a bidet. I got a little mini bidet bottle. I'm just gonna squirt it. I'm gonna bring some wet wipes, some bamboo wet wipes too, just in case, just to double check that everything is copacetic. But you know, I just like that idea a lot better than carrying all my TP out with me to every resupply for 7 days. Just seems like a bit much. So yeah, so bathroom, water, you've got to figure out your food. You know, you gotta figure out what kind of power bars can you eat for 21 days. I know for myself, I had, you know, doing some triathlons and doing Ironman, I got to the point with certain products that I used all along, I couldn't stomach them anymore. Mile 20 of the marathon, it was just like, I can't have another Hammer gel. I love Hammer products, but there was just no way I was gonna do another one. So you've got to find food that you like, that you can eat for 21 days, and you need a lot of calories, and you need to be able to carry it to the next resupply. So there's a lot, you need really calorie dense food that you like, which is kind of fun to eat, calorie dense food, but it means you probably can eat candies and things like that. But I've got a plan. We'll get into that in another video. I'm not one of these macro guys, like I'm not going to be counting every, you know, gram of calorie that goes into my body, and you know, and the weight, and I'm just going to bring a bunch of stuff that I know I like and that fits in my can, and I'll test it all out ahead of time to make sure it fits, and we'll be good to go. But there'll be plenty of food, and hopefully we make it to our resupplies. I'm going to kind of end it there because we're going to be coming up to some real challenging stuff here, and I want to kind of rip it a little bit. But I'll get into more of this stuff that we got to think about and we got to work on before that epic day that we finally get to the JMT. I'm pumped, I'm excited, and humbled that you found me on here and are willing to come along for the ride. And hopefully it's a journey that I'll be successful and I can complete this thing, and I could be one of the 50% that actually finish. And I'm certainly not going in as an experienced hiker or through hiker or anything like that. But yeah, JMT 2026. Thanks again. Cheers.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part.
Almost went down. Caught my handlebar there on the tree. Getting tired. Getting a little sloppy. I know you can go down that last little spot. I might be going a long way here. Yeah, I am. I'm going the wrong way. It's the wrong way. I gotta go back. Here makes it a little bit difficult to climb it. I just go up.
Let's get it on. We took the ball and made a stand. Started swaying with the
Shit.
hand. Made me skip. Now we're into a brand new trip. Everybody was
Get a tight pants.
fighting.
Hard to do this when your pants are falling down.
Those kids were fast
One of the
as lightning.
advantages of
In fact, it was a little bit
losing weight is for disadvantages of losing weight is my pants are falling. But I've got a whole wardrobe from the 1990s. Can't really fit me now. So that's a bonus. Not really. Probably more from like the 2010 era when I was doing my triathlon and stuff. So, yeah, I'm just gonna keep recording here as I finish this trail. You can see there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Oh, I really have my speed up, but it's not easy doing it, navigating this and padding at the same time. At least not for me. I'm not that good of a mountain biker. As you can see, a lot of times that is all river there. It's pretty low right now. We haven't had a lot of rain. But which way do we go here? Yeah, there we go. But yeah, it's beautiful. I'm gonna go this way, but I know there's some good stuff there to the right. And there's a whole boardwalk section, and there's a whole nother section of this up and down stuff. That's just phenomenal. But I'm happy to bring it back out. And you might have seen this before when we came out up there. You probably saw this in the camera. So we're back to that spot. And then we just take this little loop here, and then we'll be back to the car. I was going to do another loop, but we're actually having some people over tomorrow. Well, St. Patrick's festivities, some friends and neighbors, and so I've got to go to the Publix and maybe to the butcher and get some corned beef and some cabbage and some potatoes, some Guinness and Harp, so we can have a proper St. Patrick's feast that my wife has been making for the family for years. She used to do these huge things in New York, and now we're doing it down here. My new life here in Florida. Maybe next time I'll take you guys on the whole of that legit mountain biking area. And then just to finish the video, so you can see what exactly, what's what. See where you come out. You take that hard right when you come back there, and it brings you back to the head of the Turkey Creek Trail. Just put in your phone boat launch, and you can see it. Here it is, Turkey Creek mountain bike trail, kayak launch, and that's it.